Oregon's law of bicycle lanes is a whole lot simpler than most people realize. However, when most drivers went to driver's education, there weren't bicycle lanes. So it's important for drivers and for bicyclists, since bicycles are vehicles, to understand the basics about bicycle lane law in Oregon. Well, first of all, bicycle lanes are for bicycles what vehicle lanes are for vehicles. And in bicycle lanes, bicyclists have the right of way. And what that means simply in the law is that a motorist may not try to occupy the same space at the same time as a bicyclist. And in a bicycle lane, the bicycle has the right of way, which means that if the motorist and the bicyclist are trying to occupy the same space, the motorist must wait until the bicyclist passes by, and the motorist must not interfere with the bicyclist's right of passage in the bicycle lane. Unfortunately, in the roadway, when motorists do not honor our right of way, instead of creating a horrific crash, what happens is the bicyclist makes a face and maybe a hand gesture, but basically slows down, because the laws of physics are not on our side, even though the laws in the statute books may be. And the fact is that mass and velocity are such that we want to avoid colliding with a car that cuts us off or pinches us off. Nevertheless, we do have the right of way in bicycle lanes. The laws that govern bicycle lane rights are contained in the Oregon Revised Statutes, and the first one is ORS 811.050.
A person commits the offense of failure of a motor vehicle operator to yield to a rider on a bicycle lane if the person is operating a motor vehicle and the person does not yield the right of way to the person operating a bicycle. So here the car driver yields correctly to the bicyclist, just as if you were changing lanes on the highway. Here the car does not yield correctly to the bicyclist, causing what is called, or could have been called if the car had hit the bicyclist, a right hook.
Just because bicyclists have the right of way in bicycle lanes does not mean that motorists are prohibited from ever entering a bike lane. There are certain circumstances where a bicycle and a motor vehicle share the bicycle lane. However, before the motorist may enter the bicycle lane, they must first yield the right of way so that they don't interfere with the right of passage of bicyclists. And a motorist may use the bicycle lane in order to make a turn, in order to leave the roadway, such as to go into an alley, or to make a turn off of the roadway onto another roadway. But again, the motorist is required to first yield the right of way to the bicyclist before they make the maneuver crossing over the bicycle lane. And parking a UPS truck in the bicycle lane or a limousine in front of a hotel or leaving a car parked in the bicycle lane is not yielding the right of way to bicyclists. While law enforcement may not be keyed to enforce the restrictions on parking a vehicle in the bicycle lane, we as bicyclists need to make sure that the parking patrol in our cities or towns enforce the laws prohibiting parking on a bicycle lane, because it endangers us and forces us, particularly inexperienced riders, to leave the bicycle lane and have to deal with motorized traffic. There is a little bit of an edge to bicycle lanes, and that is that while we do get to have a bicycle lane, if there's a bicycle lane available, we have to use it. ORS 814.420 states that when there is a bicycle lane on a roadway, a bicyclist must use it unless there are a certain set of conditions present. One is that the bicycle lane is blocked, such as by the examples that I cited before, a truck parked in the bicycle lane. Another example is when the bicycle lane has debris or some type of hazardous glass or gravel, or where there's construction in the bicycle lane, then the bicyclist can leave the bicycle lane.
Open car doors or potentially open car doors certainly provide reason to move into the main lane, as perhaps does the danger of this guy's cigarette putting a hole in your new windbreaker.
Another example when a bicyclist is allowed to leave the bicycle lane is when a bicyclist wants to make a turn. For example, if the bicyclist is on a one-way street and wants to make a left-hand turn, It's safer for the bicyclist to use their hand signal and then to change lanes from the far right, where the bicycle lane is usually located, across the several lanes of traffic in order to make a left turn. And the bicyclist is allowed to do that.
Except as provided in subsection 2 and subsections 3 of this section. A person commits the offense of failure to use a bicycle lane or path if the person operates a bicycle on any portion of a roadway that is not a bicycle lane or path, when a bicycle lane or bicycle path is adjacent to or near the roadway. A person is not in violation of the offense under this section if the person is able to safely move out of the bicycle lane or path for the purpose of overtaking and passing another bicycle, a vehicle or pedestrian that is in the bicycle lane or path, and passage cannot safely be made in the lane or path, preparing to execute a left turn at an intersection or into a private road or driveway, avoiding debris or other hazardous road conditions, that's a big one, and preparing to execute a right turn where a right turn is authorized.
The problem for the bicyclist with bicycle lanes under present Oregon law is that if the bicyclist is out of the bicycle lane for some reason besides those reasons contained in the statute, and the bicyclist gets in a collision with a car, it's likely that the car's insurance company will claim that the bicyclist was in a place where they did not have a right to be. So until the law is different in Oregon, if there is a bicycle lane and you decide to leave it for some reason, make sure that you can articulate or explain why it is at that particular time that you left the bicycle lane. And once whatever it was that gave you leave to leave the lane is no longer something you have to avoid, you want to get back in the lane and resume your travel to wherever your destination is in the bike lane. So be safe out there and keep the rubber side down.
For the full text of the statutes mentioned and much more information, go to Pedal Power, a legal guide for Oregon bicyclists.